No, I didn't see my name under the following honorable members which were present, who were present, but Honorable Gassama just showed me that my name is there. Thank you.
You're number 11. Page 2. Any page 2? Can you please then move to page 3? Member Fuli is?
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. If you come to under communication from the chair, the last line, the way they write Kairaba, it's like Jairaba. So that's, instead of K, it's J. And when it goes to the last word there, building, I'm not so, they say it's housed in the assembly building. I think it's maybe if we use premises or compound.
Yeah, it should be, yes, complex or compound.
Or complex, whatever.
Yes.
Yes. The last question, the first question, the way they write it, Honorable Member for Talinding Punjang asked, answered, and generated 7 supplementary. I think there has to be a format. You know.
Yes. Honorable Member for Talinding Punjang asked, answered, yes, and generated 7 supplementary.
It's not the same person who is asking and answering. So he asked and then is answered by the Honorable Minister, which generated 7 supplementary questions. That's how it should go. That format will be better, but if you go on writing this, somebody who is not here will not understand what you have.
Or maybe because, it's been separated by a comma, he asked the questions, it was answered. Honorable members, the Honorable Member for Woolly is, members, are you following the argument put forward by the Member for Woolly is? But I'm being informed that, when you look at the question number 0237 of 2022, comma, then you have, it was asked, of course, by the Honorable Member for Talinding Kunja. Then you have the dash separating the two. That means the question was asked, it was answered, and it generated supplementary questions. They said that's the procedure that's happening. I'm not sure, what is your proposal? Is that okay with honorable members? It's correct? Yeah, it's correct. Thank you. The member for Sami or Sabasanjal, Sami.
Thank you. Can I go ahead? Thank you, Speaker. Number 55, page 3, Ibrahim Majority, Sandu, he was present yesterday.
No, he came extremely late when registration was over.
But he was present.
We went together. He's the one.
Yes, he was present. He came very late. I think his question was answered on his behalf by maybe. But then the table office, I've been informed that they will rectify it. Member for Sabastanjal.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My question was asked by Willie West.
Page 3, any more issues? Any further issues on page 3? Page 4? Page 5. It appears no issue or issues on pages. Yes, member for Brikama South.
Honorable Speaker, I want to believe that the Honorable Member for Woolly has a point with regards to the arrangement. I think the question, this particular response has some issue. If there could be a little bit of modification. Like if you look at the number, the question number, then you put the Honorable Member for a particular constituency, asked, answered, and generated 7 supplementary questions. Probably one can put in a question in order to modify it. So the questions were answered because this has attracted supplementary questions. So the manner in which it is done, if somebody who is not very much affair with parliamentary proceedings will find it difficult to know how this went. Questions were asked, they were answered, and also generated supplementary questions.
Well, the minutes are yours, so you look at the minutes and whatever you think is more appropriate, that's what they are going to capture. If you think it should be modified, you can propose, and any member who believe it should be like that, then. If you have any proposal to modify it, if that is the wish of the majority of the members, member for Talinding Kunjang?
Yes, Honorable Chair, I think, Honorable Speaker, I think it's fine. It's not a sentence, there's a hyphen. There's a hyphen that tells you what it means. So it's not a complete sentence, a structured sentence. There's a hyphen, I'm telling you, it's asked, answered, and so it's correct. Huh? Who answered? Are you going to put the minister's names here?
Honorable, please, you address the speaker. Don't,
you know, the honorable member is doing something he himself doesn't like. So.
Please.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for that. Yeah, but I think it's fine for me.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I think that's my opinion too. But as I said, it's for the members. If the majority think it should be changed, but it appears that Honorable Member for Woolly is.
Honorable, all what we are saying is let them write it in such a way that even if somebody who is not here, after we have gone, if the person reads it, will say, yes, exactly this is what has happened. But if you write it in such a way that, there is doubt, that is not how people should do the right. That's all I'm trying to say.
There is no doubt.
Then I'll come to.
Yes. There is no doubt. Already it has been highlighted on the paragraph above. The following questions and number of supplementary questions were asked and answered by the Honorable Minister for Lands and Regional Affairs, Regional Governance. So it tells you the following questions. So you exactly know who answered them. It's already stated like he was asking. So this is telling you this question number this, it was asked by Talinding, asked. So the answer will, the paragraph above will tell you who answered it. And then.
Honorable Member for Woolly is. When he was speaking before his last intervention, I think that was the question you raised to him. So he has answered your question. The Honorable Member for Sabah Sanjal.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also wanted to make almost the same observation and also to add that this has been the norm. This is what we have been using. So unless if we want to change it, but for consistency purpose, this is what we have been doing here. Thank you.
Thank you. It appears. Yeah, okay. It appears that members want it to believe as it is. Can we proceed to page 5? Any more issue or issues on the records of votes and proceeding? Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the record of votes and proceeding of the National Assembly sitting of Wednesday, 14 December 2022 be approved with amendment. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Clerk.
Laying of papers and reports. A report of the Standing Committee on Human Rights and Constitutional Matters on the Oversight visit to major detention centers in the Gambia, Phase 1, by Honorable Suebu to the member of the committee.
Honorable.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I am laying the report on behalf of Honorable Member for Serekunda West because he's indisposed. Honorable Speaker, the Human Rights Committee, as you can see, is composed of various members. The former speaker was the chairperson of this committee, and my humble self was the vice chairperson. And you can see the list. And we've also had the term of reference, which is the objective to visit the detention centers and check their conditions of detention in the various places, how the cells look like, the population of the detention facilities, the space and capacity of the cells, category of inmates, detainees, women, children, persons with disabilities, and check sometimes for the justification for the detention, length and period of detention at the, if it is a police station, whatever. And then this came about, it's also during the COVID-19 to see whether the measures were adhered to. What is the government's approach to achieving efficiency across the prison estate, and access to education if there are young people, whether they have training facilities there, for example, if it is at the prison. So we've also, these are the stations that we have visited in the first phase, and this report is dealing with the first phase. We've done with the BANJUL, and we did it at random. We did not visit all the police stations, but we did the capital, where you have the police headquarters and the National Intelligence Agency. We've also visited the central prisons at Mile 2, and just one prisons at KM, Bakau Police Station, Kairaba Police Station, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. Then the Police Intervention Unit, Talinding, Bundung Police, Serekunda, you can see the list. We visited, so it's Banjul, KM, and part of West Coast, and police stations at random, and the list is there. So, Honorable Speaker, when you go to day one of the visit, you can see the police headquarters, which we visited. And I can say that the chairperson herself was with us when we visited these places. It's the head office of the administrative base of the police. The head of the police force, Inspector General of Police, IGP, received the committee. He described the framework within the police headquarters and affirmed his commitment to ensuring a rise-sensitive police force. So upon concerns raised by the committee on how to lodge a complaint against an officer, the IGP stated that complaints against police officers, wherever commissioned, must be reported to the headquarters in Banjul, as the relevant resource persons are centrally stationed. So as you can see, I'm not going to read everything. I'm just going to summarize so that the members understand exactly what we have done. But anyway, at the police station, the committee further raised concerns over the procedure leading to detention and whether the rights and freedoms of detainees are respected. Some committee members additionally highlighted personal experiences with the police. They questioned whether the police headquarters contain additional holding or detention facilities other than the facilities alluded to by the IGP, making reference to rooms on the higher floors of the building that were previously utilized or improvised for the detention of persons. So at the police station itself, at the headquarters, right at the building itself, there are cells there, which we visited. At that point, the IGP clarified that there exists no other detention space within the building of the headquarters other than the cells on the ground floor. He stated that the only other space capable of housing detainees are the interrogation rooms, which are exclusively used for interviews and interrogation. He made it clear that under his administration, no person has been detained in any other room save the designated spaces on the ground floor. So we went to the ground floor and we visited we observed what is on the ground floor, and we discovered that the ground floor where they keep these people was still not in good condition. You can see water being locked there, and the place was smelly. So we've described all that. The place was smelly, and it was not really conducive. And the other rooms that people were held there, they put some mats on the floor. And one could say those ones are a bit okay. The chairperson of the committee opened the meeting on the National Intelligence Agency, where we visited, and explained the objectives to the director and his team. And the director affirmed that the National Intelligence Agency, which is under reform, has assumed a new identity, and that is the State Intelligence Service, SIS. He asserted that the agency does not detain persons and has not done so since the inception of the current administration. Current administration meaning the coalition government. The Director General also made clear that except for the completion of the administrative block, there has been no infrastructural development, especially relating to any detention facilities. He went on to say that the cells that he found when he commenced his function as Director General remain unchanged. He welcomed the initiative by the National Assembly to visit the institution. The committee inquired on the state of the cells, and we went through the cells one by one to see the former cells where they used to keep people. And we've noticed that whether the cells were changed or modified, that's what we are checking. They further asked whether any pictures of the cells were taken during the current administration. The committee asked the agency what the agency was doing to rebrand itself owing to its track record of alleged human rights violations, and whether the institution has recently taken part in any investigations or arrests. If so, what obtains as the procedure for investigations and monitoring? This is very important for us to know because they are under reform. So we must know where they come from and where they are going. And that's why I'm reading this. But the others I will definitely summarize with your indulgence. Yes, and then in addition, the committee expressed its apprehension over the reference to the State Intelligence Service, SIS, rather than National Intelligence Agency, NIA, especially with the absence of a bill tabled in the National Assembly for amendment to that effect. The director assured the committee of the unshaken objective to reform and gain the confidence of Gambians. He explained the need for a robust intelligence unit that would effectively deploy its skills in the furtherance of national security and preservation of national integrity. The director affirmed that the agency's duty is to collect and analyze information and advise the relevant authority where it deems appropriate. Furthermore, a reform was indeed imminent from the inception of the current administration, as the preceding body had committed serious harm to the reputation and goodwill of the agency. He affirmed that a bill is in the process of being tabled at the National Assembly that would manifest the reforms sought by his administration. And that's why I was raising the issue with the Attorney General, but unfortunately he said it is not under his purview to bring that amendment here. The Director General went on to assure the committee that the cells remain in the state they were upon his assumption of office, and that no renovations were made in relation to the cells. So you can see members continue to ask issues. Members asked whether the agency would be involved or interfere in politics, and whether the bill affords the agency any powers of arrest similar to the previous body. In response, the Director General affirmed that the agency is interested in political spheres, but will not interfere along partisan lines or in aiding personal agendas. He informed the committee about the relevance of monitoring the political sphere as he made reference to the saga unfolding in Nigeria and SARS riots, the Guinea-Bissau predicament with the election saga and the 3 years Jotna riots, which essentially are all politically ignited activities that are possible threats to national security. So there is political sphere. They can deal with political issues, but they will not deal with partisan. They will not arrest somebody because you belong to a particular political party or not belong to a particular political party. So they are not involved in that now, as it used to be. He concluded by soliciting the support of the committee. The committee proceeded to visit the detention facilities. That is very important in the premises, which were 5 in total. The committee, however, observed that one of the rooms was newly painted contrary to the Director General's assertion of non-interference. They said previously that they did not paint anywhere, they did not renovate anywhere, but when we went to see, we saw that rooms were painted. And even some writings on the rooms were also painted, so you could not read what were written there. When this was brought to the attention of the DG, he stated that the only changes to the room was the painting and breaking of chain handles, as the state of it was horrific and in need of some refurbishment. So those are some of the changes that they made there. He clarified that the room was previously an interrogation room and not a holding cell. An interrogation room is where they ask people. A holding cell is where they just put you in cell. These are the two differences. The committee observed that the walls of the rooms had been covered up by a red paint and still had remnants of what seemed to be bloodstains and chain hooks. The committee members voiced their concerns, noting that the modification was undue and perhaps amounted to interference of some sort. Amounting to some interference of some sort could mean that they may be interfering with evidence that may be necessary or required by the court. As the TRRC is going, some cases may go to the court, and then you will need some of those evidences. But if they painted them red and cover all of them, it will be difficult. That's what we are trying to explain there. So at BANJUL prisons, Honorable Speaker, the committee visited these prisons and met with the Director General and his team, and who acknowledged the presence and the authority of the committee, stating that the prison service would always cooperate with the committee. The Director General went on to introduce his staff. So we've done the introduction, and then we went to visit the kitchen. These are the places we visited there. Convicted male, where we found 153, according to their numbers, their records. We visited the remand wing, detainees, 113 members of that wing. Female wing, we met only 8, and the security wing was only 5. So kitchen and medical center. The committee then proceeded to inspect the prison premises, beginning with the, like I said, those places. And this particular place, which is the kitchen, was being donated to them by the UNDP. The newly built kitchen, however, will replace a makeshift kitchen, which we also visited, which is in the compartment of corrugated iron sheet. The prisoners had 2 meals a day, consisting of breakfast and lunch. breakfast is scheduled for 8 a.m., while lunch is between 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. The committee observed that the inmates cook with facilitation from officers. They noted that the inmates who cook are not remunerated for their efforts. In front of the kitchen area was a clinic primarily established to cater for the inmates' medical requirements. The medical center, however, serves merely as a provision for basic medical care and doesn't have the capacity to deal with compound medical conditions. The structure is currently under renovation and expansion to improve its capacity. So you can see the picture there. We found them cooking and we observed them as well. And we see that the cooks, it's the prisoners themselves that are the cooks, but they are being supervised by the staff. And then we went to the remand wing. And as I tell you, those are the figures that we found there. I'll just tell you something little about the remand wing. The remand wing is structured such that there are 2 yards, each of which is secluded from the other with separate entrances from a common reception area. The combined number of cells in the remand wing is 11. A total number of 55 prisoners is recommended as the capacity, implying a number of 5 persons per cell. But let me just tell you that this area was built since the colonial times. It was not built during the independence period. And the cells were definitely very congested. And they were not built with the human rights lens that we are looking at the cells at this present moment. So those are some of the conditions that were there. The cells were in a deplorable state, with the absence of beddings and prevalence of water leakages in the rainy season. During that rainy season, it was leaking. Some of the roofs were leaking during that period. You know, that's very dangerous for prisoners. When water is leaking there, it may cause some of these diseases. The other factor observed by the committee was the long period of detention without court appearance. We discovered that that also is prevailing there. The average length for detainees in the remand wing was 9 months, with a single remandee claiming to have been held on the wing for 8 years. We found also one person there who says he's been there for 8 years. The detainees laid complaints about having no court dates. And when we are doing this tour, we go with the officials themselves to see all these places. And we keep on asking them questions as well, while we receive information from these people. This was a concern to committee members who highlighted that the 1997 Constitution of the Gambia dictates that no person shall be detained for a period exceeding 72 hours without appearing in a court of competent jurisdiction. Only the court may commit a person to custody pending trial. So that was one of the main reasons that we have been searching throughout, whether that provision has been adhered to. So when you come to the prison yard, Honorable Speaker, the committee, you can see that the uniforms for convicts is a navy blue attire. The convict wing was much more spacious and conducive than the remand wing, because these people are convicted, so they have been staying there for years. So their area is definitely bigger than the cells that these people were, the arrestees were held. Yes, and many people are in one room. It's like a dormitory. If you know what a dormitory is, many people were in one cell, in one building or in one room. The committee observed that the limited number of books in the library and questioned the frequency of updating. So if you go to the security wing, which comprise inmates emanating from both convicted and remand prisoners, they have all of these two there. The wing appeared to be more organized than the previous segments. The Director General noted that most high-risk prisoners, being victims or harmful to themselves or high-profile prisoners, are secluded from the others and housed in the security wing. The security wing comprised several buildings contained in the same section. being solitary confinement and singular security confinements. The committee observed a cell block that appeared a colonial structure, like I said, comprising 99 cells. That's a big building. They have 99 cells there, but it's a colonial block. This cell block was of interest to the committee as the prison officials noted that the most high-risk prisoners are housed in this particular block. Now, after we finished with this area, we went to Kanifi municipality, and that was on Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. As I said, this is, we have phase 1 and we have phase 2. What we are dealing with today is just phase 1. The phase 2 is dealing with the provincial area. So in Kanifing, what I will be reading for you in Kanifing is almost across the board, almost. If you, and those who read, you will see that it's almost across the board, with little exceptions here and there. The committee converged, as I said, the chairperson once began, we did the introductions and all that. The Director General of the Gambia Prison Service was once more the host as his authority. We've done that. And then what obtains at the mile 2 and what obtains at Jeswan is that in Jeswan we've seen more modern buildings in Jeswan because they are built later. And then the juvenile wing is separated completely from all the others. And it has, they have their beds. They also have mosquito netting. We've observed all that. And they also have a building which they are teaching these young people during that time. But we observed that the ventilation in the cells needed improvement as the rooms were poorly ventilated. The prevalence of bed bugs and mosquitoes was a concern for the juveniles who were in custody. So if you are not inside your mosquito net, the room itself has mosquitoes. That's what we have been told, and that has been disturbing them. The committee took particular interest in a 13-year-old boy who was accused of stealing a car key. The juvenile alleged that in his 3-month stay, he had not had a court appearance and was lodged in the prison by officers of the anti-crime unit. Once more, the committee highlighted the disregard for the criminal justice procedures and violation of fundamental rights and freedoms. Within the juvenile wing is a newly built structure designated for the delivery of lower basic education, like I tried to explain. So I will skip that. I have already said that. The adult wing, the open entry into the adult wing of the first site was the administrative block, comprising an administration office, library, and a clinic. Outside the administrative block was a tricycle used as an ambulance. The committee observed that the space designated for the administration was quite limited. The accounts officer responded affirmatively to the observations of the members as he made mention of their constraints, highlighting budgetary as well as welfare issues. According to the accounts officer, conditions are inconducive for the officers, talk less of the inmates. The detention area, the committee noticed construction taking place. Like I said, the Director General affirmed that the prison service, as part of its reform program, is engaging in infrastructural developments aimed at increasing the capacity as well as improving the welfare of prisoners. The committee noted a much better environment at the Jeswan prison than what obtains in BANJUL Central Prison. With regards to population, like I said, these are newly, it's not long, it's something like 10 years to now. So the buildings are newer, and therefore the conditions are a bit better than what obtains at mile 2. Honorable Speaker, we can now move to KM. Like I said, we visited Bakau. The committee observed that Bakau Police Station has 2 holding cells with an estimated dimension of 3 by 2 meters. The cells have poor lighting and ventilation. There is a common area of about 8 by 1.5 meters that serve as a corridor for the cells with a toilet that is used by both cells. On further interaction with the officer on duty, the committee was made to understand that the station in Bakau housed an immigration unit as well as a drug law enforcement officers unit who jointly utilized the holding facilities. The officers reported that there was no vehicle stationed at the police station. So that you are going to see the same routine. Every station you go is almost the same. I will try to find out the little differences in each place. If you go to Kairaba, the lighting system is a problem. The cells were polluted with rubbish and dirt in such deplorable state, such that they were uninhabitable. You will observe that. Yes. Then we move to the drug law enforcement, and you can see the officers that were giving us evidence in that place. And the chairperson made the introduction. That is page 9 now. You are with me? Page 9. The Director General took the floor and affirmed that the Drug Law Enforcement Agency is the agency mandated to combat the use of narcotics and curb drug trafficking in the Gambia. He noted that the agency has been under reform from 2010 and have achieved a lot, including attaining regional and global recognition. He mentioned that the war on drugs is a global problem and therefore fought on a global front. The Director General highlighted several constraints, including budgetary limitation, remuneration challenges, mobility challenges, inadequate human resource capacity, inadequate detention facilities. The major concern for the committee was that the agency has inadequate detention facilities and has to rely on the police for the detention of their suspects. The committee raised the issue of whether the agency's officers are trained on how to amicably effect arrests with proportionality. The Director General affirmed that the officers of the agency are well trained and accustomed to upholding the highest standards of ethics and professionalism. He continued that the agency is audited and scrutinized to this effect. However, the Director General spoke on the emergence of organized criminal groups whose activities are hard to track, consequently making arrests even more difficult to effect. He noted that although his officers were highly professional and would afford all suspects their fundamental rights, there are instances that warrant the use of preemptive force so as to curtail and effectively conduct raids and arrests. Furthermore, the Director General raised concerns that the agency is unarmed, contrary to standard global practice. Because some of these drug traffickers also go with arms, but they don't have arms. I don't know how they're going to deal with that. He noted that the contraband that the agency is tasked to combat is one that is highly lucrative for perpetrators. The trade has the tendency to corrupt officers. Those engaged in the drug trade tend to be well-resourced, and as a countermeasure, the agency ought to attractively remunerate its personnel to preserve the integrity of the agency. That would be proportional. So, you can see we visited several other places, like wherever we go, there is a component of the drug law enforcement. They always have their office. They also have their holding cells, separate from the other police officers. But here and there, when, for example, the police have their places full, they may put some people in the drug law enforcement if there is space. They keep supporting each other. Honorable Speaker, if you go to Kanifing Kanifing Police Station, we did the same routine discussion with them. The station serves as the base to hold accused persons awaiting trial or convicts to be transferred to prison. All the other stations, when they have these people, they transfer them to Kanifing. It was, however, observed that there was no categorization of detainees in relation to their gender. So there is no particular cell for women, particular cell for men. That was not there. We did not find that there. The officer in charge stated that the detainees are inadequately fed. He further reported that, like many police stations, detainees were entitled to only $5 each day. So what was allocated for them was only $5. And this experience is throughout all the other police stations that we have visited at that time. With regard to sanitation and cleanliness in the station, it was noted that the water system was barely functional. Claims of lack of drinking water as well as water for toilet use were made. The station was extremely overcrowded with poor sanitation and insufficient ventilation, factors which could result in detainees' deaths. In a bid to manage the congestion, the police adopted the system of quickly offering bail to accused persons. So that's a big constraint there. In Bundung, you can see, after the formalities, the committee inquired on the classification of cells, and there too, there are designated for women and children. So we, at least in Bundung, that was there. The commissioner replied in the negative. The commissioner replied in the negative that they don't have that. He said this was owing to the limited amount of space in the police station. He, however, noted that when there isn't congestion, then certain classifications can be made. Yes, the committee also inquired about the sanitary conditions of the police, and we observed that the sanitary conditions are also as bad as we've seen in Kanifing. The commissioner acknowledged the constraints regarding sanitation as the detainees are responsible for the cleanliness of the cells. He attested to the inadequate infrastructure of the station and stated that the intention to expand the station was to include larger and more ventilated cells, as well as provide adequate offices for police officers. The commissioner, you go down, the commissioner concluded by highlighting the constraints of his office and indicated the unavailability of vehicles as priority. As I said, whichever station you visit, you are likely to come across the problem of vehicles. At Serakunda, it is similarly, $5 is allocated for each detainee, and the station contains 2 cells, which share a common area and a toilet. So it's 2 cells, they share one toilet. The feeding, like I said, is $5, grossly inadequate. The station was concerned about the location of a particular electricity transformer, which had proven to be a hazard to the station on several occasions. The last complaint by the SO was a familiar cross-cutting issue amongst all police stations, i.e. the issue of mobility. Yes. Now this hazard to the police, we'll have to continue to check that, because while we look for human rights issues, the police are also human beings and they are doing state duties and therefore need protection so that they'll be able to continue doing their job. Now, there is an immigration section at the police station which is completely separated, and we found better cells there because the building is new, and the toilet situation too is better than at the police station. Now we can move to West, go to Kotu. It's a similar situation. Kotu, you will see that the station contains 2 holding cells, size approximately 2 by 3 meters, with 1 window for ventilation. The head of the immigration unit at Kotu Police brought to the committee's attention the fact that the facility was recently refurbished, fully tiled, and newly painted. That is the immigration section. The cell was equipped with 2 beds, although temporarily. Toilets were clean and functional. The committee observed that the premises, although small, was the best they had seen since we started the tour up to this place. And the issues, as you can see, mobility constraints, limited office space, inadequate number of cells, inadequate provision for feeding. That's the $5 for each detainee. It's a colonial $5. It still remains there, £1. Yes, that's still the same thing. Now, when you go to Kololi, it's a similar situation. Lack of mobility, lack of standard toilet, onerous working conditions, poor sanitation, and hazardous toilets conditions, budgetary constraints. But the toilet at Kololi was particularly bad. The officers complained about the absence of toilet, compelling them to dig a pit latrine in their own volition to remedy the constraint. So that's the situation in Kololi when we last left there. Now, when you go to police anti-crime unit, maybe we'll spend little time on that. But apart from the introductory remarks, the commander, in responding to all the queries that we have there, all the observations that we have there, affirmed that the ACU is an elite unit. It's different from other police stations. A battle division that assists the police with the assistance they need. Furthermore, only a small number of juvenile offenders that are incarcerated as the court seeks to resolve issues through alternative and amicable means, such as counseling. We found juveniles there, mainly juveniles in crime. So from there we realized that juvenile crime is a serious problem for the Gambia. And when we move on, we continue to see that most of the people that we find at police stations, most of the people, detainees that we find there, were juveniles. And so juvenile crime is a serious problem for us. He noted that indeed mobility is not a concern to the unit, but rather the access to target places. The committee inquired on the availability of child welfare officers, as we are looking for human rights issues, child welfare officers, as well as a comment on the claim that the unit admits persons to prisons without judicial intervention. The commander's response was that despite the lack of child welfare officers in the station, in cases involving children, the Child Welfare Department is consulted. With regards to sending suspects directly to prisons, the commander noted that the prison personnel, as a matter of protocol, do not accept detainees without a court warrant. That is his response. So the practicality, whether in practice that is the same as what he's saying, is another thing. But the committee raised further concerns over the identification process when effecting arrests, noting that the unit is notorious for violation of human rights, and as such, a different approach ought to be taken by the current administration to attempt to improve the name and image of the unit. Members suggested partnerships with the community as a more effective measure of policing. They concluded by making reference to the hashtag #EndSARS in Nigeria crisis, and noted that the unit is on the verge of prompting similar situation. Further inquiry was made as to whether the unit is a replica of the bulldozer, and inquired on the legislation that established the ACU. The commissioner, in response, affirmed the compliance and competence of the unit, noting that they cannot and will not be threatened. He continued by making a distinction between the ACU and bulldozer, stating that the two are separate entities. The commissioner insisted on the need to apply force in order to secure communities. Yes, apply force, but it should be proportionate. When police officers use force, it should be proportionate use. If you meet somebody you want to arrest with a knife, you use knife, or use a cutlass or whatever. If you find somebody with a gun, you also use gun. That's proportionate. But if you find somebody with a stick, you use a gun. That's not proportionate. Yes. So as you can see, this area is different from the other places because they are armed. They are people that are armed. The commissioner, the members of the committee continue to express their familiarity with the unit, raising grave concern over the lack of identification of ACU officers, noting the need for uniforms. So if you go to arrest and you don't have any identification, how would the arrestee know that you are a legitimate officer or you are not? These were some of the concerns that we were raising there. The commissioner's response was that the officers always embark on patrol in full official police gear except for CID officers who sometimes do undercover field work. There are some also that are undercover, and therefore they don't need to be identifying them, because if they do, they may also be harmed because they are not armed. The committee observed that the premises contain 2 holding cells. The first cell is situated at the registry and is estimated 8 by 8 meters. The second cell is located behind the registry with an estimated dimension of 8 by 10 meters. You can see it was brought to the attention of the committee that the premises was once a hospital. So where they are was a hospital, and there is a contention as to who owns that place. So all those issues were there. We don't need to go through that. You can read it for yourself. Now their constraints are there. You can also see that constraints pertaining to granting bail, transfer of detainees to the remand bin, mobility, human resources, cell conditions, insecurity of the premises, structural defects, etc., etc. So as I said, when you go to all the other policies in the WCR, it's the same story. Lack of vehicles, etc., etc. You go to, for example, Gunjur police station, you will see their concerns. It's lack of vehicles. They don't even have a station because where they were in Gunjur was lent to them. But eventually the owner took the land from them, and then they had to go, I think, to the Bantaba or something. That was a building that was also lent to them. So they don't even have their own place, some of these places. So, but lack of vehicle, etc., are their constraints. And the $5 continues as the food for the detainees. And what the police are also doing is to always, they say they contribute, and then they cook. And what they cook is what they share with the detainees as well. So it's the police that are feeding the detainees, because $5 was really very meager. And when you go to other places like Tujereng, it's the similar situation. I don't need to write. Let's go to the recommendation, because Tanje is a similar situation. In fact, they are just in a small, single room, you know, and holding people in that same place. So, and that is near the fishing site. Burusubi, you know, they have several stations, but we found 13 detainees there and interact with the detainees as well. The station contains the headquarters of the Child Welfare Unit. According to the officers at the unit, crime rate involving minors during the COVID-19 pandemic have increased. So we'll go to the recommendation. That's the last bit. You are in a haste. You want to go? You know, you are free to go. On the recommendations, with regard to the observations made during the visit, the committee recommends that, Honorable Speaker, with your permission, I know everybody has read it. If you want me to read it, I can read them. But there are not many. I can read them. Huh? We recommend that the ventilation of police stations be improved to ensure air circulation and improve visibility. The Inspector General of Police, IGP, and Minister of Interior to take the responsibility of ensuring police stations or police cells are clean and hygienic at all times. Mosquito nets be placed on the ventilation holes of every detention facility in the Gambia to reduce the influx of mosquitoes. The allocation of $5 to police detainees be progressively reviewed with immediate effect. The police force develop and improve the welfare of children and women under detention. The police force desist from inflicting any inhumane and degrading treatment on detainees with immediate effect. At Kotu, we found that they have beaten a child who was under their detention, and that's why we are mentioning that. But that's the only place we found any evidence of beating. The Gambia Prison Service also should develop a temporary measure for curbing overcrowding at remand bin pending the completion of the new prison halls. The Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs should create a budget line for the prison's medical and emergency services. Reading and other educational materials be provided to the juvenile wing. Because, like we said, we've not seen any reading material there at the juvenile wing, at the mile 2. However, just one was a bit different at that time, at that material time. Now I know the conditions have changed again. Juvenile wing and prisons be fumigated immediately in order to mitigate the infestation of bedbugs. Moving forward, the construction of police cells take into consideration, in addition to improving of space, making provision for separate cells for women and children. The transport of prisoners to courthouses be progressively reviewed in a view to improve mobility. The Minister for Basic and Secondary Education to ensure the operation of juvenile instruction centers. The government should table a bill to reflect the reforms necessary in the National Intelligence Agency, including rebranding of the institution as the State Intelligence Service, divesting detention power and limitation of its mandate to intelligence gathering. Now the NIA is not arresting and they are not detaining anybody. They are only supporting the police to do their job. They will, if they know something, they will tell the police, and the police will do the arrest, and the police will do the detention. Nobody is detained by the NIA. And they are in different police stations across the country, but that's the information that we got throughout the country. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the members of the committee who've taken this painstaking job, and all the witnesses that we found at the police stations, at the Mile 2, as well as the Carnifing prisons. And thank the National Assembly Authority and our clerks for this efficient job that they have done for the committee. On that note, I also thank the members for their time to listen to our report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any seconder? Member for Olyndum.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I rise to second the motion. I equally wanted to at least say a brief thing about the report that is just been tabled by the member for Woolly East on behalf of the chairperson. Honorable Speaker, first I will thank the committee of the Human Rights and Constitutional Matters in the 5th Legislature for having gone far, at least for the first time, that the National Assembly in the 5th Legislature established the Human Rights and Constitutional Matters Committee. And that was a good move by the National Assembly, looking into account issues affecting citizens who are under detention or, other ways of being arrested or whatever. Just the human rights aspect of whatever happens within the jurisdiction. And I think the committee have done a very good job. We really need to thank them for taking the bold step, going around the country to find out information. If you look at the report, Honorable Speaker, entirely is well explicit. It has touched on every aspect of what we intend to know. One of the document that was adopted by the UN General Council in 1988 was the body of principles. If you look at that document, between Article Principle 1 to Principle 37, all the aspects that the committee highlighted are anchored on those principles as well. And I think they have done a very good job. The recommendations of the committee are also noted. We have seen challenges within the recommendation. I think authorities responsible from here will follow it up to ensure that those steps are taken and resolved. This, perhaps from the 5th Legislature and the 6th Legislature Human Rights and Constitutional Matters Committee, the reports perhaps will be similar, but then I wouldn't preempt the other report coming. When the time comes, we will look at both and see whether we have at least resolved some of the matters that were transited to the 6th Legislature. But I think it's a good report. The body of principles have seriously highlighted all the principles that we need to know, and the committee have just taken the hard way to find information. But if you look at the body of principles, it's generally telling you what is supposed to be done in human rights situations, and that is exactly what the committee have done. We thank the members of the 5th Legislature. I just wanted to urge ourselves as members of the 6th Legislature Human Rights and Constitutional Matters Committee to emulate what the 5th Legislature Committee have done, and in fact to go far and do even more than them. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I thank you so much.
Thank you. I now put the question. It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable Assembly do consider the report of the Standing Committee on Human Rights and Constitutional Matters on the oversight visit to major detention centers in the Gambia, Phase 1. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Any honorable member who wishes to take part in the debate may do so now by show of constituency tag. I now give the floor to the member for Central Baribu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank Honorable Ture of Woodley East for laying such an informative report. The report seems too late, but as the saying goes, goodness is never late. There are still some of the things that I believe we can do justice to it. I know some part of the reports may be taken by events, but notwithstanding, we have a lot to discuss, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in the report, I have took note of human rights abuses that are prevailing in our prisons or detention centers. Honorable Speaker, human rights, these are universal rights that we all own. These are rights that we are born with as human beings. Whether Party or Yore or Fatu or Bintu, these rights need to be protected. And most often, we see them being abused at our detention centers. And sometimes, some people, how they are treated to be taken to these prisons and detention centers is all based on human rights abuses. I believe the report have highlighted instances where these prisoners are not given adequate food to eat. And food is essential. Food is part of life. It's a universal right of people to have access to food. If prisoners are given $5 for a meal, hope that is not, I want the mover to elaborate. Is it a colonial law at the time that $5 is per person? But I don't think that is the circumstances that is happening there now. If that is the case now, tell us. Then there is a need for action, urgent action to be taken. Because I know you cannot live on $5 per day. Honorable Speaker, detention without trial. Most of our brothers and our sisters are languishing in the prisons without having access to justice. So, access to justice is very key. I could fully remember in this house here, one of the members or the chairperson of the committee, they have people in that prison more than 10 years. They are detained there and they don't have access to justice. So I believe it's high time the people in the judiciary to look into that so that those cases could be brought before the court. Justice delay is justice denied. Honorable Speaker, the same prisons, the report shows that we have a lot of drug-related cases there, people who are accused of drug trafficking or what. And Honorable Speaker, most of the people that are detained there called drug-related victims or detainees is all on cannabis sativa. Honorable Speaker, it's high time we disclassify cannabis sativa as a hard drug in this country. You cannot call it a hard drug when people who are smuggling, bringing containers of cocaine in this country, they go free. The people who smoke, only to smoke, they are arrested, detained, jailed for nothing. It's high time we look into that. They are human beings, they need to be treated well. And countries that are advanced, countries that are champion of human rights, they have now looked into cannabis sativa because there are some medicinal values attached to it.
They are using it as a treatment. So why are you arresting people, detaining them, taking their, in fact, robbing their resources? You go to the police station, their parents will be parading to look for funds. What is happening in this country? So why should we use our institutions to rob poor people, to victimize our youths? These prisons must be decongested with those youths and let them be given a job to do. Honorable Speaker, I am coming with a motion to look at that clause of the drug-related issues. It's high time Gambia to look into this. Honorable Speaker, coming to separate wing, the report also talk about, in some parts of the country where both male and female, they are not separated. So we have to improve on the structures. Who is coming to Mile 2? Who is going to Janjambure? Who knows? Who will be the victim? Members of this assembly, former members of this assembly, were arrested in this country because of this related cannabis thing, and they were jailed. Who knows who is going to be the next victim? So it's high time to look at the prisons. These are particularly politicians. You are all politicians. We see the political consequences that happen in the country. You can be going there next minute. So if you don't allocate funds to build that prison, if you go there, that will be the time that you know that you didn't do justice to the people inside. Honorable Speaker, coming to the juveniles, the report also told us that there are a lot of young people, juveniles, behind the bar. What is happening to our culture? What is happening to our social values now? So this is the culture that Gambia has been known for. Parents must be responsible to their kids. We must become responsible child bearers and child rearers. These children cannot go on street freely. Parents must be responsible. And we must have alternative way of resolving conflicts. We must be each brother's keeper. We cannot just allow things to work. Then I'm seeing that things fall apart in the Gambia. A center cannot hold. This is what is happening here. This report is a very important report. I want members to go into it. Then we come up with strong either resolutions or motions to better our prisons, to better the life of our young people, to better this country. I thank everybody for your kind attention.
Thank you, Honourable Member for Central Badebu. I'm not sure what you mean to declassify the use of cannabis, but thank you. And when you talk about Honourable Member for Central Badebu, thank you very much. And when you talked about politicians, I saw most of these members beating their tables, and I can see the name for Janjambure was confiding. Thank you very much, Honourable Member for Central Badebu. The member for Nyamina West.
Thank you, Speaker, for allowing me. Okay, I don't intend to take long. Just want to join my colleagues as a member to this committee. In the inception, when they divided us to committees, I found myself in this committee. I was so much in love with the trade committee in which I was before, but I happened to love this one also due to the engagements. I did not partake on the phase 1, but I was lucky to join them on phase 2. That was the provincial outreach. So for that being the case, I also fell in love in these activities, which are basically on human rights issues. First of all, let me thank my able chair, who is not here, and also the presenter, that is Honorable Toure, and all other colleagues in this committee. These experiences were a wonderful one, and first, what I happen to find or learn is the level of commitment and the level of willingness to which we found officials and the level of cooperation they accord to us during our tour. I have to confess, they are very cooperative. He mentioned it here that now in the NIA, which is now SIS, have already told us that they are not detaining anyone there as it used to be. So all of those who have shown us the level of improvement from the officials when it regards to human rights issues that we were taxed to. And obviously, I just want to go straight to some of the challenges which are all cross-cutting or all across the country, as alluded from the presenter. All of the constraints goes to mostly mobilization, that's vehicle, lack of vehicle. Most of the police stations are with lack of vehicles, so it will be very difficult for them to come out with their tax or to perform duties perfectly without mobility. The other issue is the human resources. The capacity is very low. In some of the stations we went, we've only found only one single officer seated in either a checkpoint or a main station and so on and so forth. So conditions of cells, which are definitely in some places, which I don't want to mention, we are in very worse conditions. But I have to thank Honorable Suyabu Toure and my able chairman. Definitely they did a lot during that exercise where they themselves spent some resources to see some changes instantly, because we could not afford that, to see our fellow brothers in such conditions. Ventilation is very important. Some of them we are striving to come and have a breath around the window, on which was on exchange basis. So, and also issue of uniforms of police officers, which might not be much of my area, which is human rights, but also feeding program. One of my colleagues has mentioned it here. Since colonial days, $5 per person per meal. That is horrible. And then not only the quantity, but also the quality of the meal, which is also very important. So these are things that should be thrust out. Not to stay long, let me also address issue of education in some of these centers, like you just alluded, no library in some places, and in some places you cannot call it a library. So it is very important that we give our brothers basic education in wherever they are. The medicine, sometimes it's also horrible. Some people are sick. To transport them to the hospital is a problem. Oh, these are things that we need to address as a nation. The legislative area, before you arrange someone to court, is more than enough. So people are detained there for years, which is not acceptable. Also, the issue of practicing religion, some other places, there are not proper setups for them to practice their religion and maybe when reading and whatsoever on their religion. Sanitation and ventilation, I have said it here. Someone said the level of pollution in one of the stations. We visited one of the stations where we met barrels of fuel. So all those are issues. But in short, I also want to commend the drug law enforcement, because for reason that we found out that their detention center or cells whatsoever are definitely very perfect and they are humanable. So anyone can, maybe that's why still now people are still now into this, because the law enforcement agency for their detaining areas are just perfect. I would want other police stations to emulate such. And also a place like Kauru police station, their cells also are very perfect. So we can see this.
Observation. Can I observe you, please?
No, allow me, I'm done. I will not. So if you go to Kauru station, compared to other stations and mean, no one would want to be in a cell. But compared to other stations that we visited, that's what I'm talking about. And these structures, are now changing. So this is what we are, the older structures were colonial structures. So it's upon us to change. It is upon us to change the type of structures we are putting up. Someone has said it here. Today is someone, tomorrow it could be you. So thank you. Let me.
Thank you, member for Nyamina West. I now recognize member for Same to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and the committee members, the staffs, and the witnesses. Honorable Speaker, this is a report of the 5th Legislature. Honorable Speaker, we all know that there are 3 major detention centers in this country. That is Mile 2, Jos 1, and Janjambre. So I don't know why this committee did not put Janjambre in phase 1. It should have been in the first one. Honorable Speaker, as a committee, you cannot visit all the areas. You have to be selective. 21 stations. And if you look at their report, for the first phase part, they said major detention centers in the Gambia. And if you go inside, now they specify and say Banjul, Kanifing, and West Coast. I think the same thing should be at the first cover. The first cover, they should state that Banjul, Kanifing, and West Coast. But they should not say Gambia, when actually others are not there. They should be specified. If you look at the 21 stations, are all in one area. I know, yes, they have done a very good job. But what they should have done, Honorable Speaker, is that they should have included Janjambre and look at least every region, 3 police stations. The rest, they concentrated in Greater Banjul area here. They will have the true picture of the report. Had it mean that Janjambre is there, and all these other prisons will be able to make a quick, decision. But now the other phase is with Janjambre should have been. We don't see that. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the station that they have visited, there are issues there. There are issues there. But go to upcountry, Honorable Speaker, they are the worst. They are the worst in terms of accommodation, where those officers are staying. Talk less of where the detainees are staying. You don't measure those ones with the ones in the Greater Banjul area. Poor structures in those areas, even lack of good toilets. Here, even that is happens to all the areas, most of the areas. No separate cells for women and children. Honorable Speaker, when I look at the report, what annoyed me most is when I look at the Banjul Central Prison, Mile 2. The challenges that they also undergo. And thank God to UNDP that came up at least to renovate the toilets, buildings, and also their kitchen. Honorable Speaker, when you go further and look at the remain win, you tend to surprise what kind of judiciary system we are having. What kind of judiciary system we are having in this country? How can you detain somebody for 8 years, 3 years? The person is there. He doesn't know his fate, his or her fate. I think the committee should share this report with Ministry of Justice. The Ministry of Justice should know what is happening at Mile 2, at the remand wing. Some people there, maybe they are accused of rape for 2 years, 3 years. They cannot at least verify to see whether that person is guilty or not. But the person is just there like that. If you go for that, you look at the cells there, overcrowded, posted, bed. You look at their house during the rainy season, as it is stated in the report. They can't sleep well because of water in those houses. Honorable Speaker, having looked at their recommendation, for me, I'm recommending that the Ministry of Justice should act as soon as possible so that people who are at remand know their fate. What is wrong with our this thing, how to call it? Those who take care of the court cases, what is wrong? Judiciary, 2 years, 3 years. Honorable Speaker, all the recommendations are definitely, they are fine. But I think this committee should try by all means, before the end of 2023, they should know what is happening at remand at Mile 2, what is happening there. What is the fate of those people that they went there and find some people are there for 8 years or 3 years, 4 years. They should go back there again and come and report to this very house. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, member for Same constituency. And I give the floor to the member for Kiang West.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members of this August Assembly, committee members, Standing Committee on Human Rights and Constitutional Matters, the clerks who have been tirelessly working with you. This is a great job, but then I think we won't have much to say because this tour was conducted in 2022, February. So there is a wide gap within to determine the current situation of the cells that you've visited and as well as the police stations. But then, Honorable Speaker, few areas that we want to highlight is that the concept of the reform when it comes to human rights issues in this country. I think we would love to remind the government that the concept of reform for human rights issues is not just freedom of expression. Yes, people can express their views, conveniently, very freely. That is one aspect of democracy. That is one aspect of human rights. But this is a whole package that you cannot unfold
and take the few out of it and count that as the human rights reforms and forget the rest. Forgetting that, major human rights violations in this country are done in detention centers and our prisons. They've talked about tampering with evidence in some of the security areas. Why are we crying for those evidences? Because of the serious human rights violations that has been meted on people during the past. And we thinking we're getting rid of these things. And still we are seeing other human rights violations that are happening in prisons. So I think we in fact should stop blaming or calling for Ministry of Justice to act quickly. It's us as National Assembly members to make serious reform on the laws, because we have a very slow legal process. Our legal process in the Constitution and the legal system is very slow. It's not fast at all. Unless we get the overhaul of the entire system, that is to have a new constitution that is going to be there for Gambians. We're looking at issues at a very peripheral level. The constitution is not looking at just the leadership of a country, but then these are all the issues that it has contained. It is very protective of the Gambians, their human rights issues and all that. So it's better for this August Assembly to ensure we advocate for a new constitution to come to ensure that the Gambians are free. The other serious human rights violation is you don't have a separate cell for men and women where rape cases can happen any day, any time. What are we expecting as a society? If we can still put our men and women in a single prison, this is terrible. In this 21st century, you have that at this part of the world. Our children being in prison, a juvenile in prison for 3 months for stealing of something which doesn't worth $10,000 without a court cases. I think the time has come that we look at the system. I think, but our constitution has given us more to talk than more to do. So, but I think the committee, human rights, and you've done a great job. But I think your phase 2 report would inform us sufficiently to better make an informed decision or an informed resolution that you can pass to the Ministry of Justice as far as these issues are concerned. But the other part also that we can share with this August Assembly is that you've talked about the $5 for a prison per day, for a prisoner per day. $5. Is this a law? Look at the allocation that we have made during this budget. These are some of the things that that should reflect directly in the budget that we're seeing. This allocation goes directly to the prisoners. This is why you prison somebody for 8 years, the person comes out, he becomes more dangerous criminal than ever before. Rigorous trainings are not conducted for them. Guidance and counseling issues are not being conducted for them. When they come out of prisons, they become more dangerous. Let's, design our prisons to mold people, to change their lives into better livings, to mold their lives into right directions. Prisons should not just be a punishment center for us, but prisons should as well be a center to transform our youth. Some of them might not have a better choice of living, but once they get into prison, we have people who can mold them, train them into skills. When they come out, they own their personal skills. They become entrepreneurs. They become doctors. They become National Assembly members. This is the prison that we would love to see. But we don't want to see a prison where people can be sitting remanded for 8 years without a court case. You are denying them justice. Are we expecting every court case to be a rise-up? Recently, we have seen the cases that happen in the Gambia, are cases special in the country, that people will rise up for some cases and the court will take a due cost. Do we want all other cases for people to rise up? Why are some cases really special for us? I think the justice needs to play. Otherwise, it is not safe for our country. We have moved from a far distance. We've complained over and over. People were detained without trials. People were killed. People were being beaten, escaped, raped every now and then. Husbands losing their their wives losing their husbands. Kids going to school, they never come back home. We think we have made a reform. We have changed the government. We are making this submission to the government that our human rights system should not just only be freedom of speech, freedom of expression. No, this has to reflect on other aspects. The democracy, I said, is a package that you cannot unfold and pick this sum and say, this is the democracy I can do. No. Honorable Speaker, this is my submission. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Kiang West. I now recognize the member for Fonyi Bintang Kranai to take the floor.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Speaker. It is not an intention for me to be speaking time and again, but then the circumstance that surround the whole thing force you to give your submission at one point in time. Looking at the report that comes from the Human Rights Committee, it is a duty upon us to thank them for the hard work and for the recommendations that they did come up with. Time and again, I wonder whether democracy is just for you to say what you want to say and nothing comes out of it at the end of the day. It is time for us to practice a system that suits us, that will reflect, that will improve the life of our people. To start with, the detainees in Mile 2 here, every day they are suffering because of the burning of the BANJUL dumping site, constantly, every now and then in the evening. And this is a constant complaint that they are lodging. In the evening, even if you are here around this assembly, sometimes, when the BANJUL dumping site is burned, all the smokes centered itself into the prisons. And it affects them seriously. I think immediate actions are needed for this issue. The other issue is the $5 as a member for Kiang West clearly stated. The $5 is the allocation for the colonial era. And I think it is now the right time for us to move. The laying of the report, to be honest, have come at a latter part and is very late. But then as the members, we can do whatever it takes to revive this. Because most of the prisoners or those that are detained are definitely suffering, to be very honest with you. And then, just like member for Central Body Book clearly state, the prison is a home for who? A home for the politicians and a home for senior government officers. Now, when we have another change of government, anytime we can have a change of government, who will be the next inmates? It's a question that remains unanswered. So it's better we better the place before we are there. It's better we better the place before we are there. Because by the time we will be there, we will say, had we known, we should have made this place a better place. But then it's late. That time we are not with power. Go and see who are those that are there. You will come to know of these realities that I'm telling you. Most of the time, like the member for Central Body, I will always quote him for today, because he mentioned very important points. Those that we caught with cannabis are the people that are there in Mile 2, and they nearly full the prison. But those with cocaine, those with heroin, those rich drug cartels are never taken there. It is only the poor, innocent ones that are there. Most of the time, those that are very rich are not there. But those that are poor, that have no connection, are the people that are in Mile 2. And as I speak to you now, Mile 2 is full with this democracy. These are confusing issues, and we must empty Mile 2. I stand. We must do whatever it takes to empty Mile 2 and Mile 7 and Janjambwe prison. That is my stand. Because it is our younger brothers and sisters, it is our neighbors that are in prison. And the trials are dragging and dragging and dragging without end. The judiciary system, as member for Same clearly stated, we should look into the judiciary system. What are they doing? You are paid to do a tax. What is wrong with the judiciary? Let them come and tell us the problem. But you cannot have a dragging case for over 14 years, over 10 years. At the end of the day, if you are found innocent, what happens? They said you are compensated. Who can compensate for the time? 10 years in prison without you doing anything. You could have a child from it. You did not have that child. Who can compensate you for that? So we need to look into these serious issues. It must not be just hearsay that he said this and who cares about it. No. It is time for us to take actions. You can only build a nation through commitment. But it is very sad. The judiciary system, the Human Rights Committee, plus the National Assembly, everybody, it should be a concern upon all of us. It worries me a lot if someone is found innocent after being detained for 10 years in remand. It worries me, honestly. How can you compensate that individual? 10 years you could have finished your bachelor's degree, you go for your master's and become a PhD holder. Then you are left in prison. Now that draws me to the other side of it. We should make sure that all the people that are there, the inmates, they should be given special skills. And the juveniles, I don't know, is captured under the recommendation, the Ministry for Basic and Secondary Education, and so the operation of juvenile instruction centers. And that is important. The juveniles, they should be going to school. They should be going to school and they should be promoted from one class to the other. Because if you detain a juvenile with that age, maybe age 7, 8, before age 25, at least the individuals have completed grade 12. That is something that we need to take into consideration. We also need to look into the issue of the library. If the library is not well equipped, it is our duty to equip the library. Because as I say, politicians and senior government officers, if you are there, the only thing that you can engage yourself with is reading books. Once you have books to read, you are okay. But then, if we don't have enough books, it's another issue. I have seen prisons that have no library in this country. That have no library. I think it is the right time now for us to work on it. Now, the police stations, some of them, they have no arms or they have instant arms. Now, when problems happen in other parts of the country, the only rescuing force is the police. And now if the armed robbers, for instance, are to come, and the police see the armed robber with the guns and everything, what will the police do? They will have to run. And when the police cannot save life and properties, who will save us? Before you will contact the Gambia Armed Forces, they are gone. So I think it is the right time now for us to equip the police station with 2 or 3 or 4 AK-47. And I mean the modern AK-47, not the one we saw. That will be very important for my part. Ventilation in the detention centers, in the police stations. Ventilation, as he said, is very poor, and this needs immediate actions to be taken. I also have a suggestion, and I want to move motion that all the cells in the police stations should at least have beds. They should have beds so that when they are there, at least if it is night, they can lie down. And the issue of these mosquito nets should be looked into. Because you are not taking them there to kill them. Malaria, if they suffer from it, they can die. So you need to protect them. And the cells also need to be very clean, as clearly stated by this man. Because you don't expect me to be in a very dirty environment. Likewise, the ones whom you seize his freedom, you don't expect him to be in a very dirty environment. And the issue of their health condition should also be looked into. I am taking it long because it has to be long, against my wish. Because we find a scenario wherein someone will say, I'm suffering from high blood pressure. The other guys will say, I'm suffering from asthma or other related. But what happens to them? At times, we have not allocated or any fee, or the fee is not enough to take them to the hospital. We need to look into those issues and help them out. So much so we know that some of them are not criminals. Some of them are very good individuals, responsible individuals. So we must not treat them as criminals. And even criminals deserve a conducive living environment. On that note, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Member for Fonyi Bintang Karanai. And I give the floor to the member for Joseon constituency.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. For giving me the floor, I'll first start to thank the then committee whose report that we are looking into today, and the current one also. Honorable Speaker, before I start, I may suggest one thing here. As far as this report prepared for the past 2 years, been brought here for us to look at it properly. Next time before reports are brought to us, I think there has been need for the current committee to
Point of observation.
On the rollout.
May I observe you?
No. After the rollout, you
or
can
maybe
give
make clarification.
a proper, no. You can give us a proper report to compare the two. What was there before and what is there and what is currently there.
It's not 2 years in February.
So that it can definitely help us to shed light on issues. But notwithstanding, the report was a very good report. That was just a suggestion. Honorable Speaker, I'll first start with the juvenile wing, that we have young people that have been kept there waiting for trials. But one thing just caught my eyes, that's a 13-year-old boy who is just sent to that prison for only stealing a car key, and is there for 3 months without trial. A 13-year-old boy stole a car key. The vehicle is still there. Only a car key is sent to mile 2 without no trial for almost 3 months. That's too much. Where is the community policing that could have called the parents and sit with them and then the vehicle owner to resolve the issue? I think these are issues that we need to look at properly and try to reduce the load of the prisons. I don't think that this kind of people needs to be there for the first place. A car key, a mere car key, that could have been, you can even spend $700 to have another one, or even $1,000 to have another one. Though it's a crime, I'm not saying it's not a crime. But these are things that we can look at properly. At least you keep him to the police station for 1 or 2 days, and then allow him on bail. Because you cannot keep him there without trial for almost 2 months at his age. Then what are you telling him? What are you telling him? It might be done based on accident or based on things that he don't even know without even the intention of even stealing. But he's there innocent. We don't know whether he was guilty of the offense. There are many people in this mile too. The last time I said it here, that there are innocent people in this prison that are lying down there waiting for trials, and at the end of the day, after being tried, they are found innocent. What next? Time wasted. Your name is painted everywhere as a criminal. When are you going to change that in the community? Big problem. So I think the judicial system needs to act as quickly as possible when certain issues are brought forward. Issues that we think that it can be investigated earlier can be investigated as quickly as possible, and then that will help us to reduce the number of prisoners in the cells. You go to Janjambure. I was there the last time with the Defense Committee. In a big hall, how many inmates do you have there? A lot. Some are there there was the one interview, he was there on what? Waiting for trial for more than 13 years. If I could recall my mind, 13 good years, he is still waiting for trial. For 13 good years. And you cannot even differentiate the age. There are some who are not notorious criminals, some are just being sent there. We have to differentiate them. We have to put them in different cells. At least those who are notorious criminals should be kept somewhere else before trying to train those young ones who don't even know their left and rights. That's very important. Honorable Speaker, coming to the feeding aspect of it, I think it was during the colonial day when they say £5, it's now being changed to $5 because the $5 is being called £5. I think the $5 is still there. I think we need to look at these policies and change because even your dog in the house cannot even buy anything that can fit him at $5 for $5. Neither more a human being for $5 a day. I think we need to look at these laws because we are the one that they approach during our budget session. They approach us during their bilaterals to say, this is what we want, help us with this. After giving them those amounts, there should be a proper follow-up whether it is being put in the right place. These are important things that we need to do as a parliament. After giving them, let's do the follow-up. Because that $5 cannot take you anywhere. It's not only the prisons. Anywhere you go, this is what they are telling you. $7, $15, $10. It's all over everywhere. So this thing needs to change. Honorable Speaker, the ventilation aspect of it, I heard some of the members who were there, they were very helpful to some of the police stations by giving them little cars to take care of themselves. When we were in Bansang and Njambure, a staff of this parliament also made a very good gesture by donating syringe fans and receivers to these inmates that were within those areas. I think we should say a big thank you to the staff. He's a staff of this parliament. I will not mention his name, but he's a young man trying to make ends meet, but he was there to help those prisoners that are already inside. Let's continue the same thing as Gambians and try to see what we can do. Honorable Speaker, the prisons, as we said, one of the members mentioned that it was not the whole country, but I think the report was saying part 1. That's why we mentioned Old Joshua and on other prison areas. They went on a rollout. They came out with a report. But please, I will still emphasize on this point. After every report, there should be actions. After every report, there has to be results. But we cannot go on a rollout, come with very good reports. At the end of the day, the same team will come back here again and give out a different report on the same issue. I think it's important that after the rollout, we must make sure that there must be a follow-up and there must be results. Without results, action should be taken. This is where we approve their budgets. This is where we prepare everything for them. Before giving you this time around, before giving you this number of money, we need A, B, C, and this to be fixed. Especially when it comes to feeding, accommodation, and ventilation. These are very important issues that needs to be taken care of. Honorable Speaker, I think it's important now the Parliament start doing their rollout and also based on actions. When we come, we give you a timeline that we need these things to be fixed. Without that, we'll be coming, going, and nothing will happen. Some members even told us when we were on our rollout that you will be coming here every year and we don't see any change. And that was the hard fact. They will be seen our face every year we go on a rollout to discuss with them, give them the impression that when we go there, we change. At the end of the day, when we go back there, the same people will come and say, you were here last year. We didn't see any change. At least a little change needs to be taken care of, so that we can point to say, yes, we came, we say this is fixed, and this it is fixed. So as colleagues, members of Parliament, let's start taking action. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I now invite the member for Kiang East.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And may I begin by appreciating the work done by the Human Rights Committee of the 5th Legislature. As contained in the executive summary of the report, the visit to prisons is within the context of ensuring the respect for fundamental human rights of prisoners and detainees, bearing in mind the historical realities of the Gambia's prison system. Honorable Speaker, before I look at some of the issues that were raised in the report, I would like to mention that when people go out for oversight visits, reports are generated, and in these reports, recommendations are made. But may I ask, for whom are these reports meant? Here we are talking to ourselves, and of course we have bemoaned this fact here times without numbers, that the key stakeholders who are supposed to be here listening to our debates, picking up issues and addressing them are not here. None of them. Now, I begin to wonder the essence of laying this report now, because we understand that the report was since last year. It could not be laid. Now here we are in the 6th legislature, laying the report. People for whom the report is intended are not around. And I know from the records here that you have engaged with these officers. They've talked to you, informed you of their constraints. And I think in all fairness, it is important that they are here. But sometimes it's difficult to understand who to blame. Whether to blame the National Assembly for not informing them that a report about their institution is going to be laid, but this is also important. If they don't know, they will not be here. And if the National Assembly has not been doing that, I think we should start doing that now. When the report is going to be laid, all the stakeholder institutions that the report is going to affect should be informed to come to the National Assembly to listen to what we have to say. Because one, if they are not here, they don't have these recommendations that we are going to make. One, it is difficult for them to, they cannot even implement them, number one. And people have talked about going for follow-ups. What are you going to follow up? What are you going to follow up? People who are supposed to be responsible for these things are not here. They don't know what is happening. And when you go to follow up, what are you going to tell them? What do you expect them to give you in return? These are issues that we need to seriously address in the National Assembly here. Having said that, Honorable Speaker, the report highlights most of the major challenges that the prison system in this country is facing, bordering on the human rights of the inmates of these prisons and detention centers. The report highlights human rights abuses. Of course, I think there is a paragraph in the report that says that and this one is about the National Intelligence Agency. The committee proceeded to visit the detention facilities in the premises, which were 5 in total. The committee, however, observed that one of the rooms was newly painted, contrary to Director General's assertion of non-interference. When this was brought to the attention of the Director General, he stated that the only changes to the room was painting and breaking of chain handles, as the state of it was horrific and in need of some refurbishment. This clearly tells us that there were human rights abuses of detainees in this area. And the authorities covered up evidences, maybe in fear of, persecution for those that are responsible for these detention centers. Human prisoners or detainees are human beings. Of course, some of them might have committed crimes, but not everybody who is detained in these detention centers, not everybody who is sent to these prisons are actually guilty of the crimes for which they were arrested. Some of them were simply victims of circumstances. And unless and until evidence against them is confirmed in the courts, we will always assume that they are innocent. So while in detention, they are assumed to be innocent until they are proven guilty in the courts. Now, Honorable Speaker, would our conscience allow us to punish, to abuse the human rights of somebody whose crime is not yet confirmed? Is that how we are supposed to do things? And remember, people who are sent to these prisons are our own brothers and sisters, our own relatives. And as the Honorable Member for Badibu, Senator Badibu rightly said, that prison, anybody could be sent to prison. There are nobody's permanent homes. So anybody could be sent to prison for one reason or the other. And then, as they say, so as you prepare your bed, as you prepare a bed, so shall you lie on it. If we don't improve the conditions of this prison, who might be the next victim, we don't know. But actually, the issue of abusing the rights of inmates in prison should not happen. And I want to condemn it in the strongest terms. There is also the issue of congestion in the prisons. Too many people crowded in a small room. That's not healthy. Because one, the inmates are going to be exposed to all kinds of sicknesses and diseases. And of course, I know that the report did not highlight it, but I understand that sometimes in the prisons there are disease outbreaks and lack of proper medical treatment for these people. And like I said before, is this how we are going to treat people whose guilt is not confirmed in the courts? Is this how we want to move things on? Then we talk about poor ventilation. All of them having the same problem, leading to the same problem, which is poor health, which is the easy spread of diseases, and then the unlucky one, people who may not be lucky, may die as a result of these diseases even before they are proven guilty. Sometimes prisons, and these detention centers are actually death centers. They are actually death centers because one, you put them in undesirable conditions, unhygienic conditions. They are sick, or they get sick. They don't have medical attention or proper medical attention, and as a result, they die, then who do you think it is responsible? And remember, his guilt is not yet confirmed in the courts. This is supposed to be food for thought for all of us. Honorable Speaker, I think prisons are supposed to be rehabilitation centers instead of torture and punishment centers, especially for minor crimes. When you put people through the prison system, when they go out, they are supposed to be better persons. How do we do that? Provide training for them, give them skills. Now, there is a provision in the central prisons, Mile 2, for juveniles to go to have lower basic education. That's fine. But the majority of inmates are not juveniles. Some of them are young men who could benefit from skills training. And these skills training centers, this skills training would benefit them so that when they get skills in the prison, when they go out, they will become skillful people. They will be fit for employment, or even some of them can even create employment. Now, assuming that before that person went to prison because of stealing, now he comes out of the prison, a better person, a skillful person, employs himself, then he will not go back to prison again. But the reason why some people keep going in and out of prison is because they do not have skills. You steal, they send you back to prison. Go out of the prison, no job, broke, hungry, you go back to stealing again. You are caught, you are sent back to prison. So some of them keep going in and out of prison because they do not have skills. And these are people who need to live. These are things that we need to, I don't know, I'm not sure, because I have not seen that in the recommendations, and I would like the committee to capture that in the recommendations. Now, the report also highlights lapses in the judiciary, that people will be detained in prison for years without having access to justice. And I think we, the committee, can also recommend that the judiciary expedite such cases. People do not have to unnecessarily spend a long time in jail, without knowing their fate. So if you have to jail a person, it has to be based on solid grounds. It has to be based on law. It has to be, but it shouldn't be detention without trial for ages. I think there is a legal requirement within 72 hours. People should be arrested for crimes should have access to justice. And then I've talked about follow-ups. Some of the recommendations, some of the members said have some budgetary implications. So it is not only about the government, or it's not only about the Inspector General of Police, or even the judiciary, that these recommendations should be meant. Some of the rehabilitating prisons, increasing the allowances or feeding allowances of prisoners from 5 days, that is a budgetary implication, and that one is within the purview of the National Assembly. I think it's the National Assembly that can come up with that. This is why somebody who said that the report was a little bit too late, I tend to agree with that person, because if it had come before the budgeting session, we would have considered that. But nevertheless, there is still opportunity to take this issue up in the next budget session. Honorable Speaker, with that, I want to take my seat.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Thank you very much, honorable member for Kiang East. Your concern about the absence of the relevant stakeholders to witness the tabling of such an important report is indeed very legitimate and appropriate. Honorable members, I concur with the suggestion of the honorable member, and I believe the Assembly equally agrees with him. Based on that note, I hereby direct and order that henceforth the Office of the Clerk notify all concerned and relevant authorities and or stakeholders and departments to attend and witness the tabling of reports relevant to their institutions for the parliamentary committees. This is so desirable to ensure government and relevant authorities take note of the issues raised in both the report and in the debate for considerations and further action. I so direct. Thank you. Now I give the floor to the member for Parliamentary constituency.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, first of all, I have to thank the committee responsible for human rights and moreover the presenter of this report, Honorable Swaibu Toure, for presenting or for laying a very tangible report which could guide us to know exactly what is happening in our own nation, especially with regards to the prisoners. Honorable Speaker, with regards to the Minister of Interior, by the recommendations of this committee, that the Minister of Interior and the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs create a budget line for the prisons, medical and emergency services. Honorable Speaker, I think this one is long overdue. Prisoners have right to benefit medical treatments or any emergency services. Honorable Speaker, also I saw instances where some parents would prefer sending their children to be kept in prison simply because they are strong-headed or could not be handled by their parents, so they prefer sending them to prisons in order to change them. Honorable Speaker, by keeping by detaining the 10-year-old boy in prison, I also guess the committee, Honorable Spaibu and his team, to investigate thoroughly with regards to this 10-year boy, if he is not a victim or if he is a victim of such, I also guess the boy needs urgent release. Honorable Speaker, giving $5 to detainees, I wonder in what horrible condition these children and women of our nation would be living in this prison. Honorable Speaker, our people are detained in order to change them or in order to better their conditions by way of living or some not based on the crimes that they might commit. Honorable Speaker, I think $5 is giving them as their feeding daily. Honorable Speaker, I'll urge the committee to also look into this properly and make sure that this $5 is being increased. So I'll be very brief in this case. Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. I beg to take my seat.
Thank you very much, member for Parliamentary. I now recognize the member for Basse.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. First, I have to join my colleagues in thanking and appreciating the good job done by the Select Committee for Human Rights and Constitutional Reforms. But again, I have a little bit concern because I'm representing a region or a constituency in this assembly. And this report is highlighting the concerns or the concerns or other difficulties within the cells or rebinds in the entire country, as they stated. As the Honorable Member for Same alluded, for URR, I did not see URR neither Basse police station. And I know there are other difficulties or concerns in that police station or cells. But I have loved to see it, so that at least I can also take it up from there. Honorable Speaker, looking at some of the recommendations by the committee, especially on number 2, that is the Inspector General of Police and other areas to improve on the cells or the ventilations. But I think the best thing they have to do is for the entire ministry to have an overhaul rehabilitations of all the cells and even at the remand. Because most of these structures, the walls are even contaminated because of the way how to call it, the painting. If they breathe at times, it might cause them certain illnesses or whatever. Because looking at some of the prisoners when they are released from prisons, you see their health conditions are really deteriorated. It's based on the health condition of these cells. It needs a really overhaul, maintenance, or rehabilitations. Honorable Speaker, going to number 3, that is the mosquito. Okay, it's also covered the ventilation system. That is okay, the $5 issue. My concern is about what does this $5 means, because I think the people in the prisons or in the remands or cells are given the 3 daily meals in a day. So what does this $5 stand for, or what is the use of purpose of this $5? Because I know it is just a word by some of the officials at the stations. If you go and ask these detainees, most of them, 90% of them, will tell you they are not receiving these monies. So I want to know how an effective way of these funds are being disbursed to these detainees, or how are they receiving these funds? Whether it is in lump sum or by daily, we want to know further. Honorable Speaker, if you go on the medical facilities, I think the committee should also looking at the stakeholders in this, that is the Minister of Interior, the Minister of Medical and Health, at least to engage these 2 ministries to see how best they can address the medical issue of these prisons or cells. I think they can go further by even establishing or building a clinic in these major remands. Looking at Janjambure, mile 2, mile 7, they should have at least a standard, even it will be a daycare centers where they will have very good doctors and equipments to look at these prisoners. Because at times it's frustrating when these inmates are transported to these medical centers. They spend long hours in waiting for doctors to at least to diagnose them or even to take care of their health conditions. Because I have seen an example or witnessed an example even at Ndemban Clinic. So I think the committee can even go further. It's a proposal so that they can engage these 2 ministries and see whether these health facilities can be provided in the main prisons. Honorable Speaker, on the reforms of the NIA to SIS, rebranding it to SIS, I think it was timely because some of the duties or even the responsibility of the police or other security forces was completely taken over, because there was a situation whereby even if I owe you $10,000 and I said I'm not going to pay you, you would rather go to the NIA
Whose phone is that?
You rather go to the NIA engage the NIA or even the army. Or engage the NIA in order to recover those monies. And you can see the NIA will come and arrest, detain. Speaker, there's an interruption.
Yeah, sorry, Honorable Member for Sami. I'm not sure if you have a walkie-talkie with you. Member for Basse, you may proceed.
You can see some of these NIAs will jump up and take up the responsibility in order to get something in return, taking the responsibility of this police or their duties. But I think this rebranding or reforms is timely, and I can see it's very effective, because looking at going to some of the police stations, you can see even how limited they are. They are now concentrating solely on the investigation side than arresting or detaining or whatever. So that, I think that is an address issue, and we really thank them for acting swiftly on that matter. Honorable Speaker, for the overcrowding of remands and cells, I think also, as the Speaker just mentioned, that is some of the stakeholders should have been around, at least to hear the concerns or points which were noted during your oversight visit, especially the Minister of Justice. You should have engaged him, put this concern before him. The cells and remands are overcrowded because of justice delay, and what are the measures taking place in order to expedite this fast process of prosecuting people. As I said, I was a victim because somebody stole my rams, and I've been going to and fro at the courthouse until I was frustrated. I just let it go like that. I think this thing, the Ministry of Justice, the judiciary system, the Chief Justice should be engaged. If they are not engaged, even if we build 1,000 cells here or 2,000 cells, it's of no use. They will keep on arresting, detaining, and the court will not expedite it as timely. Honorable Speaker, I think these are some of the things I have to also contribute based on this report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, the member for Bakau. Now, the member for Jara West. Member for Basse. Member for Jara West. So, the member for Brikama North and Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I would also like to join my colleagues to thank the mover of the report, the Vice Chair of the committee, Honorable Toure, for the job well done. He was in the Human Rights Committee that tore these prisons and police stations, as well as the headquarters and that of the SIS headquarters. Indeed, the work would have gone futile if this report is not presented. What we came across was very pertinent, that immediate action supposed to be taken to remedy the situation. It was unfortunate that time was not on our side in the 5th legislature to ensure that this report is later. Being the face, Honorable Member for Basse raised concern the exclusion of other police stations outside the greater Banjul I would like to beg the indulgence of the mover to respond that the first phase only comprised the said areas, but the intention was to have the second phase. And then from there, we can have both reports being laid to the plenary. It was not intentional to exclude. It was just the plan that we cannot cover all at once. Let's have the first phase around Greater Banjul, West Coast, then the second phase can be up-country. I have this belief that the current Human Rights Committee will continue with the second phase, and the concern raised by the Honorable Member for Bashe would be addressed. However, I tend to believe that what are problematic in the Greater Banjul, if you go to Bashe, you'll find no different story. What we have here will be the same thing that will be of concern to the people of Bashe in terms of administrative constraints, in terms of mobility constraints, congestion in the detention centers, and then providing food to detainees. Yes, according to the officers in charge, what is budgeted for the food provision to be given to detainees is $5 a, and they take it upon themselves daily to provide food for them. It's not the fiscal cash that are given to the detainees. The provision to the police stations is that budgetary allocation that is for each detainee. What is allocated for your food ration is equivalent to $5 a, but not necessarily you are given the fiscal cash of $5. And that cannot do anything. Even quarter bread with butter cannot, $5 cannot afford that. That is the situation. Maybe that trend had been there well before, but as time keeps going, we know $5 is nothing that cannot provide even quarter bread and then tea for the detainee, let alone to have the lunch and then the dinner. So that is the situation. Honorable Speaker, it was very pertinent to visit these centers and find the detainees or the prisoners in such horrible conditions. We have to be their mouthpiece. We have to speak their rights so that actions can be taken. It is procedurally for us to execute the law. Whoever violates the law, you face the due process of the law. To be detained and to be sent to prison is a way of following the due process of the law. But at the same time also, if you are under detention or you are in prison, it is also procedurally your welfare is taken care. If that is not taken care properly, that is also unlawful. If they are serving detention, it's lawful for them to serve. If they are serving prison sentence, it's lawful for them to serve. But if their welfares are not taken equally, that is also unlawful. If they are there, they have no mouthpiece to talk on their behalf, but we, as the people's representatives, we are the one who should speak for them to ensure that the justice that put them behind bar is the same justice that should speak for them for their welfare to be taken care. And this is exactly what we are doing. Honorable Speaker,
I do not think we need that much as such a resolution. What is embedded in this recommendation can speak volume for itself. We just follow the recommendations, adopt the report, and so that the committee act on the report for the implementation of the recommendation. That's enough. We don't need to waste much time again to prepare a resolution, bring it back. Henceforth, let's just start. As soon as we adopt this report, the committee can just take from there. The points are very clear. Let them try to ensure that these points are implemented to the letter. Whether it is in the budget or not, we know there is what we call the centralized service. It's meant for emergency issues. The minister cannot have any issues to tell us that these are not, the budgetary allocation is not there for so and so. No, the centralized service is there. Such an important issue, I think an urgent action should be taken to address. Honorable Speaker, apart from the prison conditions, to make sure our police execute their functions effectively, they need facilities that can enhance the work. By that, mobility is a serious constraint in almost all the police stations. It is very common if you have a case, you call the police for them to act, to come and arrest a suspect. The first thing they will tell you, we are not mobile. If you can arrange for taxi, you can do that, and then we can come. Now, if you don't have the means to get taxi, the suspect will go scot-free. So therefore, if you want to make our police to be proactive, they need to have the mobility at their doorsteps so that any time matters are reported to them, they can act quickly and swiftly. And this has been reported in all the police stations that these are one of their constraints, and they would love for that to be addressed. And we'll also try to ensure that the authorities can listen to that. You go to police station, it's only the station officer who will have mobility. In fact, that will even be private, not the station car. Now, if that's your private car and there are errands that are supposed to be run by the office, you are not in duty, what is going to happen? I think our police stations should be equipped, and besides mobility, the condition and nature of the stations, administratively they cannot work well when their offices, they don't have the facilities to enable them to work effectively in those offices. The police stations should be well equipped. We are living in modern generation. If you don't have such facilities, it is difficult for you to do certain operations. They should be digital so that their works can be effectively done. With that, Honorable Speaker, I will once more like to thank the current Human Rights Committee for taking up this report and laying it before this plenary to make sure this report, after being adopted, I'm very sure that it's going to be adopted, they can follow it up and ensure the full implementation of these recommendations that are embedded in the report. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Member for Brikama North and Minority Leader. May I now call upon the mover to respond to the issues raised and to wind up the debate.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I must thank all those who have contributed in this debate, and also all those that are present during this period. Let me start by the Deputy Majority Leader and member for All Yundu, who just gave commendation to the committee. Thank the committee for the job. We thank the member as well for his comments. The member for Central Baribu, Honorable Speaker, says some parts of the report are overtaken by events, which is correct. They are overtaken by events because we've started this tour in 2020, the first phase, and completed it in 2021. Since that time, because of the elections and coming to now, it could not be laid. It was our intention to lay it. He mentioned human rights violations that are observed, which is the food that is inadequate, like we've dealt with it. Since the colonial period, the policy is there to give $5, which is £1 for each, and then it has not been reviewed. So it kept on repeating itself there. But the good news is that in 2022 budgeting, this was highlighted. I think many people can attest to that. And it is increased. Now it's increased, it's more than now I believe it is 75, according to the IG. I think it's going to 75. But all the same, we still need to fight to increase it. Because 75 is still, with the inflation, you know that 75 is still small. We don't want to jump our report, but we've gone to the provinces. And we've seen that 75 is still not sufficient. But that report too will come. I think he also mentioned about the prison conditions, which I think is funding. We need to, some are even talking about, having another prison and abandoning Mile 2 completely. That is in the offing. People are thinking about that. So, but it requires a lot of funding to change those colonial buildings and make them new. While the colonialists were building that, they were building it to punish people. It was not rehabilitation. It was meant for punishment centers. But now, since the security reform, which is coming, is together with democracy and human rights, we need to be able to, demolish all those buildings and build new buildings. So it requires a lot of funding to do that. And he also mentioned declassification of cannabis, which is a contentious issue. But I know there are countries that have experimented with that. Even Jamaica, which is having a big problem with that, have experimented with it. And they have made it legal now for people to use it for health reasons, etc., etc. So it has also reduced the crime rate and decongest the prisons for those countries. So it is something that people can be thinking about. The member for Nyamina West also thanked members for their contribution and also shared the experience he has with us when we went to the provinces. We will not go into that because that is the second phase of the tour. Honorable Sise Sani also said Janjambure should be part of the first phase. But it's in different phases. Janjambure is in the second phase. These other two prisons are in the first phase. But Janjambure is in the second phase. When the report for the second phase comes, Janjambure will be featured. And he also mentioned that it should be shared with the Ministry of Justice and the Judiciary. Yes. So immediately after this, I think the committee will take it up. That recommendation is taken very, very highly. we will definitely meet the Minister of Justice and the Judiciary. We've met the Chief Justice during the first tour and highlighted some of these problems to him. But we will definitely do that. And he's saying the committee should go back to mile 2. Yes, the committee has already gone to mile 2. Has already gone to mile 2, and that report also is in the second phase. Yes, member for Kiang West, there is a gap between 2020 and 2022. Yes, that gap still exists, as you said in the report. As I said, the second phase will take care of that gap. National Assembly should make new laws. Yes, that's very important. And we will add that to the recommendations. The National Assembly needs to come, make amendments to the laws and also make new laws. Because like I said, the prison situation, the prison laws, and the most important two laws, that the Criminal Offences Bill and the Criminal Procedure Bill were all before the Parliament and we were scrutinizing them. But because of time constraint, we could not lay the report and we could not finish the Criminal Procedure Bill, which is looking at the bill which has not been reviewed for 80-something years since it was enacted. It has not been reviewed. So it's a big, bulky book which needs to be reviewed, and that we are calling on the Attorney General to come and reintroduce it, because the Speaker made a ruling that those laws, all those bills that are pending must be reintroduced. So we are waiting for the reintroduction of those bills so that we'll be able to do all these things that we are talking, to amend them. Instead of amending them piecemeal, everything will be in those laws. Fonyi Bintang also thank the human rights. We thank you. Mile 2 prison, yes, people are suffering there. Like you said, we've mentioned it. Somebody is there for 8 years without going to court. That's a serious anomaly, and this is put to both the Interior Minister and the IGP. So they are all aware of it because we've put it to them. Yes, the objective also is to decongest the prisons. We must decongest the prisons because it's even expensive for the government to take care of that number. If you go there, you will cry because it's hundreds of young people. Those people should have been working to contribute to the development of this country, but they are all languishing in mile 2. These are young people between the ages of 18 to the ages of something like, the age bracket will be to 60. But the majority of the people who are there are between the ages of 20 to the ages of 40. They have not passed that. A lot of people. So we need to decongest these prisons to make it even cheaper for government to take care of prisons and do as the Kiang East member was suggesting, to make it a rehabilitative institution rather than a punishment institution. Yes, that's the objective. And as you say also, the police in the police stations, the second report will show that, because you go to many police stations, they don't have anything to defend themselves. And criminals they tell you, criminals are coming even close to them and attacking and breaking shops and looting people, but they could not come out because they don't have anything. They don't have any gun. They show you a gun that is, I don't know, pre-colonial. I don't know, it's not even cartouche, it's the one before cartouche. They cannot even fire them now. Those are the ones they have them. So it's useless. Huh? Mark 4. I don't even know that gun, Mark 4. That's what they have. So that's very dangerous because our people are there. When we are serving the human rights concerns of people, our own security people must also be secured. But definitely they are not secure. They can only call on the PIU. Sometimes the PIU are very far. Before they come, the damage is done. So we must look into that. Yes, member for just one was saying the comparison. I believe when the second report comes, it will give you the comparison between 2020 and now, because everything will be embedded in that. Yes, the judicial system should be proactive. Yes, We've made the Chief Justice, and we've put all this into them. They also have their concerns, they put it to us. So, but we are still continuing, and the second report will show the report from the Chief Justice, because that is also very important, because if that is not proactive, that means that the congestion at the remand wing will increase. And that's how these lapses come until people stay there for ages. All sectors are complaining of Gambia's judicial system. If you go to the land cases, they take 10 years sometimes before they actually make a judgment. Some people get so tired that they decided to leave the case with the courts. When we met the NEA, when they arrest people for this charcoal ban or for nylon thing or littering or something, and they take it to court, they get tired eventually, so they leave it. So, which means that the court system must be proactive. That must be followed up. I don't know how we can definitely do that, but without doing that, whatever we say, as somebody said, we are just wasting our time. The cases will continue to pile up and up and up. Kiang East, yes, he was laying, when we are laying reports, the Honorable Speaker has already addressed that to us. I don't think I need to waste time on that. When we are laying these reports, they should be present so that they know the concerns that we are raising, the difficulties that we are raising, and the challenges. And some of the suggestions that people are making can help them. They can jot them down so that it can help them. But nonetheless, we will capture that in our in the recommendations and add there. So when we are adopting this report, we adopt it with recommendations so that we can capture some of these recommendations that are coming from members. Yes. Yeah, we turn our prisons into the prison. I've already dealt with that. The Kiang East. Parliamentary committee to find out all those who have spent long time in prisons without trial. Yes, we will definitely follow that. We've mentioned some of these names to the IG and the Chief Justice. But all the same, we will make a follow-up to see whether after our reporting to them, our meeting with them, whether they have actually addressed them or not. And we will also contact the director at the prisons to see whether those recommendations, pre-recommendations we have done, whether at least they have done something about it before we come with the second report. Yes. Basse MP suggests overhauling of the cells. Yes. We've mentioned this to the IG, we've mentioned it to the Interior Minister as well, because some of the buildings, they are definitely very old, and no matter what effort you try to do there, you cannot make them better. So, and it's not even safe, because colonial buildings, even our own security people are in some of those buildings. And if you go there during the rains, it's like this place is like a pool, you know, and spiral jara all over the place. It's so horrible to look at some of those things. And our own security people and their families are at the mile 2, and that pool is in front of their buildings, and the mosquitoes are, you know, breeding there, and, you know, a lot of sicknesses are happening there. So that is very apt. I think that must be taken up. Even if we cannot change the prison completely, we cannot demolish it and forget about it and build a new prison. At least we should demolish all those buildings and put new. But I know the efforts that the authorities are doing there is consulting the UNDP and some honor donors, which are doing some, here and there, they are doing some support, giving them support to put up some buildings. We've witnessed that. The food ration, yes, many people talk about that. The food ration, as I said, is a colonial thing, and they just forget about it. It's like they are not giving anything to the police anyway. So the police are dipping into their own pockets and providing food. But we all know, with due respect to the police, we know that the salaries and allowances that they have for their families, they will not take that to come and take care of prisoners at the police stations. So they will also be humbugging, let me put it that way, the drivers and so on, collecting them and then cooking for them and the prisoners. We know that is what is happening. The reality is that. So, but we must augment this as much as possible to ensure that you know, the prisoners that are under detention are taken good care of. Minister of Justice should be engaged to ensure overcrowding. Yes, of course, as I said, we will continue that. Brikama North, Minority Leader, We thank you as well for the clarification on the issue on the different phases. That clarification is apt. And during the detention process, inmates' rights are not taken care of. Their rights are violated, yes. If you detain somebody and you don't give him food, you are violating. We've met some people in the provinces. We found somebody there up to 4 o'clock. The person has not eaten. He did not eat breakfast, he did not eat lunch. And he's going towards supper. So we don't know whether he was going to eat supper. We had to contribute so that he can eat supper. So we found that at Sarangai in Wuli West, the person was in detention. He did not eat. So in Faroto also we experienced some problems, but that is the second phase. But we keep on seeing these things everywhere. So if the police did not take care of you, you will not have food. So we must pin down. And there are other issues. Like I said, there are small changes. And the change is we've increased from $5 to 75. But then the IG will send this money to the regional headquarters. And then it is those people that will disburse. And we've learned that some police stations, even though money has come to the main police station, but it did not reach some of the smaller police stations or small posts. So we work with them to say that if money comes here, no matter how small, something should it should trickle down to smaller police stations also, so that they also taste it. Because otherwise they will be there, and there are prisoners there as well. So that is something that should not continue. And the suggestion is to use part of the centralized services. We'll have to push the finance minister to at least see this. We put, if you remember, the addition that we put on the Interior Ministry's budget is something like 20-something million. And the objective of that, honorable members, is so that we'll be able to have some vehicles for police stations. Every police station, I tell you, every police station you go to, like the honorable member said, is either the SO's vehicle, which is private, or it's a derelict vehicle which is parked, which cannot go anywhere. These are the vehicles they have. Even the headquarters of Basse does not have a vehicle. Can you imagine that? The headquarters of Basse does not have a vehicle. I know all this budgeting that we will do here, in terms of uniform. We found a station officer. His uniform is all torn up. A station officer. At the end of the meeting, I asked this station officer, I said, but look at your uniform. Well, you are a station officer. He said, no, now we have to buy uniform on our own. We don't have uniform. I said, you don't have, but we budget uniform. But then the thing is, what we budget may not also reach them. What we budget, it does not necessarily mean that everything reaches them. You budget 100 million, 50 million may reach them, or 30 million may reach them. The rest will not reach them. So a lot of effort needs to be done to ensure that these things are done. Mobility, as he said, is the problem of all the stations, almost all the stations, let me put it that way. And even this one, if we don't follow the finance minister and follow the interior ministry, even if they buy them, what they do is that the senior members will take these new vehicles and hand them their old dead vehicles, which cannot do any work. And if we send that to the provinces, and they cannot use it, they just park it. So which means that the people who really matter in terms of security are not having the vehicles. So when we buy these vehicles, we must make sure that it reaches the needed people. You go to Sibano, there is no vehicle, a big station like that. And they have a big role, a lot of security issues there, but they have no vehicle. So they cannot do anything. Honorable Speaker, I thank you very much. And as I said, I thank the National Assembly Authority, I thank the members, I thank our clerks for all the job that is done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Wulli East, for tabling the report and as well as responding to issues and you ended of the debate. Just few clarifications, Honorable Member, on the issue of the addition we made for the Ministry of Interior and Defense. There were two, and those addition provision for 2 vehicles for the police, not 20 million. There are provision for 2 vehicles for the police. Yes, there were 24.4 million addition for the Ministry of Interior, which included the police, the immigration, the fire rescue services for their Serekunda, and also the prison for prisoner van also is part of the addition. And then in the police station, the intention of members at the time was for Sibanor and one in Elara writing. But I want to thank you and thank all the honorable members who participated in the debate and those who have not for your invaluable contributions and patience to listen to your colleagues to come up with who came up with their important point. May I now put the question? Be it resolved that this Honorable Assembly do adopt the report of the Standing Committee on Human Rights and Constitutional Matters on the oversight visit to major detention centers in the Gambia, Phase 1. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, and I hope the Office of the Clerk, Table Office, will transmit the directive that I issued earlier on for all stakeholders, department, and relevant institutions to be present henceforth whenever a report is being laid at the National Assembly for them to take note of the debates and issues and recommendations. On that note, I now put the questions. Be it resolved that this August Assembly do stand adjourned until Monday, 19 December 2022. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. The Assembly now stand adjourned until Monday, 19 December 2022 at 10 a.m. prompt.